What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Odum and Andrea podcast. This is our podcast where we sit together and we talk about people and books that kind of inspire us to, live the life that we kind of always want to, always kind of dreamed of, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
And if you want to know a little bit more about the kind of shenanigans that Andrea and I are getting up to and what we want to get up to in the next few months, be sure to hit up our website, odumandandrea.com. Mm-hmm. And with that being said, let's just get into today's podcast. Yes. This is going to be a little bit different. So it's going to be interesting to see how this is going to go, because this isn't a book that I would typically read. Mm-hmm. But I know that this is a topic that is fascinating for you because you listen to a lot of podcasts on this, and this is true crime podcasts. Yep. So this book here is called Crime Scene, but scene spelled SEEN, as in seen with your eyes, I guess, past tense. Yeah. From patrol cop to profiler, my stories from behind the yellow tape by Catherine Lyons. Behind the taper, Catherine Lyons. And she's Canadian, right?
Yes.
If I'm not mistaken.
Yes. Yep.
So that's always plus. It's always nice to talk about people from up here, the
Great White North.
The Great White North. I'm saying the true North, whatever. And so maybe with that a little bit, I don't know anything about her, so I can't even introduce her. So maybe I'll just pass it over to you. Do that.
So I've actually read this book 3 times now.
Really?
Yeah.
It's this is our Kobo, but this is a library book. We don't actually own this.
We don't own it.
Yeah.
No.
Why don't we? Should
we should probably own it? Yeah.
It's reading it 3 times.
Yeah.
But if it's from that being said, libraries are fantastic. There's lots of books available for libraries. So, don't be shy to use the library if you don't want to, fork over the $20 per book or whatever. I'm
obsessed with the library. Yeah. And the best thing is you can get just right on your Kobo or whatever. It's awesome.
And you could at least for us in Halifax here, if you want a book and they don't have it, you just request it. And more often than not, they get it. One of my books got denied. I can't remember what it was. Yeah. But
it depends. Sometimes it's like a date thing. It has to be within like the last 5 years. If it's too old, they won't get it.
Yeah.
So I love true crime. Like a lot of people, I'm obsessed with true crime. Mm-hmm. My favorite podcast is Morbid. A lot of people, it's super popular. It's been like number 1 for a while. But so that's why I really enjoyed this book.
So can you explain a little bit of what true crime podcasts are? Because the way I always thought of it was just like, somebody just is telling like a story, but it's like it's not a real story, and it's just like a crime drama or something like that, where it's
this is so for Morbid, for example, so true crime podcasts can have like kind of different formats, but for them what they do is they basically pick a case that's been popular or that people have requested, and they just kind of do a deep dive into the victim, the person that was convicted, or possibly, or sometimes it's
ongoing.
It's ongoing,
like, unsolved.
Yeah, and so they just kind of look at the whole case and all different things, and everybody has their own different take on it.
Sure.
And so these girls, they're hilarious.
So it's basically people just talking about crimes that actually have committed.
Yeah,
and
that have happened.
Their take on it, whether it's they do a funny spin on it, or it's serious, or what have you, or. So I'm sure some people maybe even interview other people that are close to the case.
So another great one, I forget what it's called now, but it goes through the guy. His name's Payne Lindsay. I forget what it's called, but it's one of the really good ones. And for his whole kind of series, it's just one unsolved true crime. And so he goes through, interviews a ton of people, and then goes through and makes it into a podcast. And what's interesting is in his first true crime podcast, because this case was 20 years old. And what happened was eventually he was able to, someone came forward and they were able to solve it after 20 years. This person kind of confessed or was arrested.
Because of the guy's podcast.
Because he put a light on it. So I'll link whatever that podcast is called. I can't remember it for some reason right now, but it's such a good one. Everyone if you like true crime, you'd probably know about it.
Right.
But so they can be in different formats. Yeah. That's what I'm saying.
So we'll probably get into why this is relevant for us in terms of what we're trying to do, in terms of, because we like to read and talk about people that kind of inspire us to incorporate some of the things that they do that made their life a success into our lives. So I'm sure we'll
get there.
We'll dive into it.
We'll get there.
So why don't we just start with the story? Like who's this Kate Lyons character?
So she was born in 1956, just about 2 hours outside Peterborough. Mm-hmm. So her mom was a teacher, but her dad was a farmer, so they lived on a farm in the country. And so she was the youngest of 3. Basically kind of had typical upbringing. nothing.
So where around Peterborough? It's 2 hours from Peterborough. There's lots of cities around there. So
Yeah, so it's close. It's like west, about 2 hours west. It's close to a lake. I forget that it's not like
close to a lake.
It's not like a big lake, but
Right.
it's like a smaller one.
Sure.
So, but like really rural type area there.
Right.
So, so then she kind of wanted to, her idea was to be a lawyer, but so she goes to U of T, University of Toronto, just in a general arts, but her marks aren't good enough to be a lawyer.
Mm-hmm.
So she kind of hears from a friend, I think it's like a cousin of a friend, that they were like just like a local Toronto police officer.
Mm-hmm.
So she's like, oh, that's kind of interesting. So she talks to this person. She applies to get in. She doesn't get in.
Just to be a cop?
Just to be a cop. And then apparently she failed like the psych assessment, which is weird. So then she talks to somebody else that apparently is a OPP. And actually the person she talked to that was an OPP, I think was like the deputy commissioner or something like that of the OPP.
Pretty high up.
Pretty high up. So then she applies for the OPP and she gets in.
After she applied to be like a regional police
Yeah,
officer.
just local. Yeah, so she gets in. And so she was 21 when she got in, and this is 1977. And at that time, there was only 50 women that had been hired since 1974.
Into the OPP.
Yes. So she's, at this kind of cusp of when it was still like women were having a hard time getting into these type of jobs,
Right.
kind of thing. So what's interesting is this OPP guy, like they have to come and before you're allowed to like become an OPP officer, and they like interview your family and to make sure you're like not crazy, I guess.
Sure.
And so she asked him, what do you think about women being like OPP officers? And he's like, women have no place in law enforcement.
So sorry, that's what someone interviewed her father.
Her parents.
Her
He had
parents
come
said-
to the
yeah.
house to interview her parents.
So both the parents said that women have no.
No, that's what the OPP officer said to her. Because she asked him, she said, well, what do you think about women being law enforcement officers?
Mm-hmm.
And he said, yeah, women have no place to be law enforcement officers.
So she asked the guy that.
The OPP officer
But I thought he's interviewing them. Why is she asking him?
Well, she's just asking him a question. I
Anyways,
guess.
yeah. Okay.
So,
So that's not a very good.
It's not a very good
have,
answer. No.
As your like.
but she gets
superior or
in,
whatever.
and what kind of fascinates me was like, even though like especially you have that kind of ethos going on, she still is just like, yeah, she still went and did it.
Yeah.
So I just thought that was like really awesome. Like
Yeah.
regardless of what was being said, she still went for it.
Yeah.
So she,
And that's got to be so tough, right? Because if it's not even just as if like just random people are telling you that you can't do something or whatever. This is like you want to become a police officer and you get into the actual place to become a police officer and you're there, but then the people on top of you are telling you that like, listen,
yeah,
we're going to do it because I guess we have to because we can't maybe discriminate in the law. But I personally don't believe that's the right thing. So I'm going to fight tooth and nail to make sure that your life is like a living hell to kind of make you want to quit or whatever the case may be.
But she doesn't say anything about that. Like she doesn't say anything about anything.
So
And
basically she's not going into this place treating herself as if like she's a victim or whatever.
no,
she's like, I'm going to do my thing.
I'm gonna do it.
And this is what I want to do.
Yeah.
And I'll be damned with anybody who's going to even try to get in my way.
Yeah. So
right away, I'm liking this lady.
I know she's so badass. So, so she goes in, she does the whole, like not boot camp, but whatever it is to learn how to, the training.
Police Academy.
That's what I'm going to try and go for. So she goes in Police Academy. I think there's like maybe only 2 other women that are in her class. So she goes through that and her new recruit posting is in Port Credit.
Where's that?
Which is just outside of Toronto.
Okay.
And so she's mostly in charge of patrolling the QEW and the 401, which if you're not from Ontario, 2 huge highways.
The 401 is Canada's largest highway.
Largest highway, yeah. And QEW, that goes through Toronto?
I think that goes from Toronto to Hamilton, doesn't it?
Yeah. So pretty big patrol areas. Yeah. It sounded like when she was...
It's a couple hour stretch.
Of highway.
Maybe even more. I don't know specifically. It's been so long since we've driven in Ontario.
I know. So it sounded like though when she was at this Port Credit detachment that she was the only female there, but it sounded like she had a really good group of people helping her out and like her main kind of mentor that she was paired with. It sounds like he was a really good mentor and like was really cool with her. And he gave her like a lot of really good advice. And he said, like you need to because you're the only woman, like it's really important that you hang out with your other cops, like your colleagues, like outside of
you
it.
gotta develop the brotherhood,
relationships,
sisterhood kind of thing.
Exactly.
Because law enforcement, army, navy, whatever it is, it's the people that you form bonds with. That's why you're in this situation where like your life could be dependent on the other person. Obviously, more so for the army, right? So it's like you trust and you fight for each other, not you know what I mean? It's not so much for the country or for the institution.
No, but
it's for your
you back each other up. You have each other's backs. Yeah. So that was really cool. And so she did a lot of like pulling over drunk drivers, and she goes through a bunch of different things.
Yeah.
So
just like a beat cop at the start kind of thing. You gotta go through the motions.
So she did that for about
patrolling the streets.
Yeah, so she did that for about 4 years, but then she was kind of done. And so there's always like different postings up like for different jobs, and a lot of them like we've kind of seen before. It's like for those like crazy Northern Ontario detachments that like nobody wants those ones, and she didn't really want that one because she was young and she's living in the city. And so there was a posting for the Toronto Office of Special Services Division. And so basically what happened was she was working with the Toronto Drug Enforcement Section, and she was doing undercover work.
This is after she's doing the patrol stuff?
Yeah.
Okay, so sorry. She finished her patrol, and then what unit does she move into?
So it's called the Toronto Office of Special Services Division. And then within that division, it was the drug enforcement section. Okay, so
she starts working in drug law enforcement.
Yeah. Okay. And so
she's working undercover.
Undercover.
Like after her first 4 years, now she goes undercover.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this has nothing to do with talking about this job posting up north, though, right?
No, I'm just saying she saw there's all of those other job postings, but she saw this one. She wanted to stay in Toronto, so that's why she picked that one.
Oh, okay, so she picked that one. Okay.
Yeah, and so that was, and she was their first female undercover officer, and this was in 1981.
Right.
So, so she did a lot of really cool like undercover work. She talks about it in the book. There was a summer she spent in a cottage with 2 other male law enforcement officers in Wasaga Beach, and they were just doing like drug buys and all these kind of crazy things. And she did.
So it's not, is it like the movie? I mean, you see the movies. I mean, if you talk about undercover cops with drug busts, you just think of like Point Break and whatever, how it's kind of ridiculous that they go in and anyways, like I'm going to be with the surfers for like the whole summer season or whatever.
Yeah.
Is it like that? Or is it more like you said, they were just at the beach and they just like, hey, do you want to try to find some drugs, and they sell someone, they just like arrest them like on the spot kind of thing? Or?
So I don't think so. She doesn't get too much into like how
the specifics. I guess that's,
you can't,
trade secrets.
But what she did say about this Wasaga Beach house was, and like for people that don't know, Wasaga Beach is a huge.
It's on Lake
Huron.
Huron.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful, but it's like a party spot. And so they had this cottage, and so the whole summer, for the whole 2 months of the summer, they're buying like drugs and they're making connections to all these people.
So they're seeing who owns or who's
So at the end of the summer, they have a huge party in their Wasaga Beach house, and they invite all of the drug dealers, and one by one they take them out of the party of like the house just to say, oh, come on over here, and they arrest them like one by one.
Yeah. So like it's the party's like where does all the drug dealers going?
Yeah, so it was kind of cool. But she did undercover work with like biker clubs, the Outlaw Biker Club, and some of those guys got arrested.
And that's not the Hells Angels.
No, but I think it's pretty same idea.
I think Hells Angels are pretty big. I literally have no idea.
Yeah. So then she kind of gets like, I think, burnt out of doing that.
From undercover stuff?
Yeah. That's
so when you're undercover, do they like have to do drugs, or do they do drugs, or like how's that,
No, I don't think so.
Yeah. Because I feel like it's not like the movies, right? Where it's like, oh, you have to be addicted or whatever.
No. She talks a little bit about that, how she saw other undercover cops going that way, and she really made sure to be careful. I think so.
So you're allowed to do.
I don't know. She didn't get into, so I don't know. But yeah. So, so then she's asked, because she's female, she's asked to interview or re-interview victims of a serial rapist in Windsor, Ontario. Jeez. And so this is awful.
If they know a guy, is this guy in custody? Like if they know that he's...
I don't think so. So they're interviewing the victims. All of these victims are like elderly women in like their 80s.
Come on, nobody wants to hear this.
Freaking horrible. But this was like the main turning point in her career, because obviously they wanted her as a female to interview these women, because it's just gonna be easier for women to talk to women, especially about something so devastating.
Of course.
And so she said, I felt I had helped some of the victims to better cope with what they'd gone through, and was also able to collect investigative information that had not previously been known.
Right.
And so this is kind of like, it's a turning career. And so she said she wanted to turning point. Yeah. So she wanted to focus on investigating violent crimes.
Just violent crimes in general, or violent crimes against women?
I think violent crimes in general. Yeah. And I think she just kind of felt like she could see the impact that she was making personally with those women. Yep. So that's kind of the turning point. So then at that point, there was a posting, another new posting that she applied for, but it was required that she attend this violent crime course at the National Center for the Analysis of Violent Crime at the FBI Academy. Right. So this was a 10-month course that she would be taking in Quantico at the FBI headquarters, and basically learn how to profile. Yeah,
it's not something it's not an online 2-hour course where you answer multiple choice questions and here you are, a profiler. It takes some serious work.
Exactly. And so what is so cool about this is, like, I feel like she is just always in the coolest time frame for this kind of stuff, because if anyone who loves true crime will also be really interested in the Mindhunter series on Netflix. It's a fantastic series.
Yeah, never seen it.
And so it's a fictionalized version of how the FBI began their profiling or behavioral sciences unit. And so it's a really cool story. There is he's the main guy that the main character is based on, and his name in real life is John Douglas. And so what this guy did was he was going around the country kind of doing training with just local police departments, training them on how to solve violent crimes or other things like that. And as he was traveling around the country, he would go and actually interview serial killers. Well, they didn't call them serial killers then, but these
people that had a tendency to murder people multiple times.
Yeah. So he would go in and interview these people. And then, so he's taking a look at it, not from a mental health perspective or a clinical perspective, but on solving criminal, what's the criminal motivations and different patterns to look for when you're solving a crime. So
doesn't that motivation come from what their personal motivation is, or what their psychology is all about?
Yes, but you're looking at it from a different perspective in terms of solving a crime and patterns that you can find, and then how to create a profile of these different types of murderers or violent criminals. So he interviewed people super famous killers like Ted Bundy, John Wayne Gacy, Charles Manson, Edmund Kemper, James Earl Ray. I know you probably don't know any of these ones, but they're super famous serial killers. Yeah.
I think, I don't know if famous is the right word to
Notorious,
use,
maybe. Yeah. Awful. Garbage humans is another way to say it, probably. So anyway, they had just kind of set it up at this point. It was still kind of a newish type of area. And what's really neat is her classroom was in the very sub basement, almost like Hoover's bunker at the basement of the FBI. And what's really cool is that's where Mindhunter in the TV show that's where they start, because they have to keep it quiet from Hoover because he doesn't believe in any of these soft sciences of profiling.
Sure. Okay.
So they weren't even able to make it even a unit until Hoover died in 1972.
Okay.
So, and not only that, Hoover put a hiring freeze on women FBI agents from 1924 until 1972.
On just women, FBI
Just women.
agents?
Yeah, you were not allowed to hire them.
Well, she's not FBI, so she's...
No, it's just but it's just like an interesting point.
Yeah. All right, so she's here. She's doing this profile course, so she does it.
Yeah, so she does it.
And then she comes back to Canada.
Yep, she comes back to Canada and gets transferred to the criminal investigation branch at OPP headquarters in Toronto. And when she gets there, it's a bit of an old boys club. So she has to really kind of punch through a lot of the stereotypes and kind of misogyny that's going on there.
Can you give me an example? Like
Misogyny
that's going on is a little bit of a...
So she's there to use her expertise now at like kind of profiling crimes, and no one in that office is bringing their crimes to her, like whatever cases they're working on.
None of these other officers have had this training either of profiling, right? So this is kind of like a new technology, I guess you can say, or a new way of fighting crime.
She's
so there's going to be resistance. Yeah. And probably even more resistance too, because she's female too,
This is it. And so she's only the second profiler in Canada at this point.
Right.
So it's a new thing. She's female. And so they're just kind of like, we don't think this is it. And also like, we don't want you to be part of this because you're female. So eventually she wins these guys over, and they see the utility.
She, solving cases.
Exactly.
Or solving crimes.
Exactly. Yeah.
Nothing like actually solving crime to get people on board about your criminal investigation skills.
Yeah. The other thing that's really cool, like I said, I feel like where she was in her career, she was just like perfect timing, because it's right after, the FBI profiling is becoming a thing. And then as soon as she gets back to Canada, Silence of the Lambs comes out. Which was huge. Jodie Foster is this rookie FBI profiler. Right. And so it really upped her profile within Canada, because she got so many media requests to talk about it.
Yeah, because she's the only one in Canada that was doing this. Well, the second profiler, but also the first female.
Yeah. So it's like she's like always at like the cusp of these cool things happening. So she talks about a couple notable cases that she worked on. One of them, it's an older case that I don't know I didn't know about it until I read her book, but it's called the Blackburn case. That's the name of the couple that was killed. And so as she was doing the profile for this offender, they got 23 out of 25 characteristics correct on this guy. He fit 23 out of 25 that they had gone through. Right. So that was really interesting. You can see the utility of finding this guy.
So what you're talking about is that they have a crime, or they figure that somebody's responsible for all these series of crimes or what have you. And what they do is they say like, okay, well, the person that we're looking for probably has these characteristics. So they come up with a list of 25 things. Oh, this person is probably, I don't know, right? Like this person probably is within 20 and 30 years old. This person probably doesn't have very many friends. This person is
white.
Yeah, this person probably likes to look at these kind of movies, or they might want to read these types of books. So
this is the type of porn that they watch.
Right, sure.
They have bad hygiene.
Right, so all these characteristics. Yes. So they come up with this without knowing or seeing who this person is.
Yes.
And then that helps them figure out their search for who they're looking for or what have you.
Exactly.
And then you said this one person they found had 23 of the 25 characteristics that they ended up in their profile.
Yeah. So that was really interesting to hear that part. She also worked on the Paul Bernardo case. Anyone can kind of take a look at that.
Like trying to find him before they knew it was him?
Yeah. And so they did a lot of profiling on that. They a lot of the stuff that they said before they caught him was exactly correct.
Right.
They figured it was not just one person, but two. One would have been kind of like subservient to the other, which is exactly the case with Karla Homolka. So that was really interesting. Why I bring that up is because if you're not familiar with this case, they were a married couple. And so Karla Homolka eventually went to the police and he was caught. They didn't think they had really any evidence against him.
So he was caught only because she ratted him out, not because the police found him.
And not because she wanted to, because kind of her family, there was stuff going on and her family forced her, because he beat her. So her family forced her to go to the cops about it. And then it just all came out that he was responsible for these two. He was responsible for a lot of shit, but specifically these two murders of these two young girls. And so they didn't think they had any evidence other than her word. So they made a deal with her, and they call it the deal with the devil because she's like, yeah, I'll make a deal for like less time. And I'll give him up. What they found later was they found videotapes. They videotaped everything, and she was a huge part of it. Like, she kept saying, I didn't do anything. Well, yeah, she did like everything. So they called it a deal with the devil.
Yeah.
So there was a huge public outcry about this. And so there was an inquiry. And so because he fell through the cracks so many times, because not only did he kill these two girls, but he was called like the Scarborough rapist. He had raped so many women before this. And it's just like, how does this guy not get caught? And how does this happen? And so they did an inquiry to figure out recommendations moving forward so this doesn't happen again. And so what happened was, eventually, after this Paul Bernardo case, she goes to the new OPP headquarters in Orillia, and she's asked to she's asked to spearhead the creation of the new section that would provide behavioral-oriented support services. And so it became known as the Behavioral Sciences Section that she headed up. And they did this in anticipation of these recommendations coming out from this inquiry.
Right.
So that's why I brought that up.
Yeah.
And the main thing that she championed, because she even went to talk to the judge who was in charge of the inquiry, and the main thing that she championed was, it's called VICLAS, and it's Violent Crime Linkage Analysis System. So basically what it is if you have a violent crime, you enter it into the database, and it's able to find patterns. And so within like all police departments, and so it can alert you to like, there's a pattern here, we need to link it together, and maybe it's just one person that's doing this, and we can find out who the perpetrator is, kind of thing.
Well, this is obviously a little bit more into the future because you're talking about databases. So we're talking about computers now.
So
this
we're
is in the
1994.
1994.
Yeah.
So that's still early days of computer stuff.
Yeah. So, and then 1995 was when she had like organized everything and got this whole behavioral sciences section together. What I love about this, and one thing, a really big takeaway, is she recognized that there's other people that have other expertise, and it's not just a one thing. You need a lot of people from a lot of different expertise coming together to solve these crimes. And so it's like she recognized that she doesn't know everything. And so she finds the people that do know everything about a specific subject. So she had people come in that were, she had a forensic psychologist come in. Like, she's the expert in profiling, but she gets a forensic psychologist. She gets probation and parole officers involved. There's this new thing, geographic profiling. There's some sort of algorithm that this guy created about where crimes were committed and making a pattern for where the perpetrator would live. And then she also had just like a pure research, like PhD student come in and just have a research unit, just pure research. So she had all of these different disciplines coming together, which that's huge to be able to recognize those things. So that was I loved that part of it.
It's all a bunch of different disciplines, but all still under the umbrella of criminal investigation, I guess, or crime solving or what have you.
Yeah. But it goes to show you, like, you can't just do one thing, right? And you need to rely on, not think you know everything, but know that there's other people that know better than you, and to kind of be able to delegate. And I think that's so important.
Well, it's like anything in life. If you want to just step away from solving crimes here, because not many of us do that kind of thing.
No.
But if you want to take a step at or look at, trying to be healthier, for example, and saying that, it's not just a one thing approach that you can do, right? It's like, oh, well, I need to figure out how I could change the things that I eat and change my diet. Then it's like, well, then there's also, I need to take a look at what my habits are and how I go about my day-to-day life, which has nothing to do with how you eat, right? But those types of habits and those things that trigger various emotions or whatever could lead you to do certain things. And then you could take a look at, well, how do I also look at what my exercising is like, and how do I keep my body in peak condition so that I could, be as healthy as I can be. So like, there's all these multi-factor approaches that you can do in order to be healthy. And another one that's even beyond that is like, what does my social circle look like? And how are my relationships with other people? Are they positive? Are they negative? And how is that feeding my whole emotional state and my whole level of this happiness, healthiness kind of thing is all encompassing. It's not just one thing. And like maybe a little bit, we talked a little bit about this in Rich Roll's podcast, where a lot of society now is just all based on consumerism. And it's like, as if it's like the only driving factor to happiness is how much money you make or how quote unquote successful you are in your career. And a lot of people just spend their whole lives trying to pursue that type of work or that type of goal, and maybe end up falling short in terms of what overall makes them happy or whatever. So yeah, you have to look at everything from so many different lenses and bring it all together, and recognize too that you're not an expert in everything.
Yeah.
You know,
and it's okay to get other people that are experts to help you.
It's not more than okay. It's a sign that you know how to better yourself. And it's so funny when you look at stuff that's going on right now in the world. And obviously Joe Rogan's the most popular podcaster. Mm-hmm. There's so many people that are like, they're calling to get him canceled, and they don't even, I think this, like, you shouldn't even be allowed to be on the air to say. And he's just a guy who's like, listen, I just like to talk to interesting people and people that have different points of views and listen to different people talk about things, because I don't know everything. I want to hear what other people have to say. And now it's like, it's almost as if it's discouraged to be able to have conversations with people about so many different topics, because everything is actually quite nuanced. When you want to actually learn about something, you know, you might be really good at this one thing, but could be 100 or more different factors that go into that thing. I mean, welcome to the world of complex systems. You know what I mean? There's so many things. Sorry, we're getting a little out of what she's talking about here, but that's the fact that you got to come together and understand that so many things.
But I guess like that's the point of why I found this book so compelling, is because of how she goes about creating this whole new branch within the OPP. Right. And it's very, very smartly done. Like, she's really smart and just able to recognize other people's expertise and bring it in and leverage it.
One thing that I love, I'll talk a little, you mentioned this before, like at the start, you know, she's like one of the only females, and she's got to go through all those barriers, you can say. And the takeaway that I have from that, or just listening to that, is that I love the fact that she doesn't use any of that stuff as an excuse and says like, oh, you know, maybe these people don't like me, or they don't want a female here, or there's not very many of me. It's like, she's like, I don't care. I'm just going to do my work and learn what I can. And then all of a sudden, like, it turns it around. And then she ends up being, obviously, there's probably this huge, she's like, I don't know where she is right now, but she's probably this huge police officer in the OPP. She's probably high up somewhere.
We'll finish off her story, but
But the idea is that so many people have this mentality now that like, oh, all the institutions are bad. They're all corrupt. And there are things within institutions that are bad, but they're all within people. And there might be certain people, like this first person that she was with, that was like, I don't think women should be here. But that's at the personal level. It's not so much the institutional level. So the fact that she's like, you know what, I am going to fight for what I want. I'm going to work to what I want. And you find out that it's not so much the institution that was the problem. It's just maybe people within the institution. The reason I mention that is because I just hear a lot of people say like, all these institutions just need to be torn down because they're all just completely, you know, they're all sexist or they're all racist. It's like, no. Yes, there are individual people that you might have to come across, that you might rub heads with or what have you, but don't let them get in your way, or let them make you think that the whole institution or like the whole world is a problem, right? It's that concept that everything external is the one that's stopping me from achieving what I want. But no, it's you can fight for what you want, and you can get there because there's not as much friction as you believe. If someone like her back in the day, when there was a whole lot more, oh, women can't do this, can't do that, and then fight through that and do that, there's so much less of that now here today. Regardless of what your color, gender, whatever it is, you know, you can still go out and achieve what you want. Don't let anybody get in your way, as this proves, right? And
I think the point of it too is it's just you become so good, like you are just undeniable. It's undeniable that her profiling worked. People saw that it was working and came to her because they're like, okay, you've proven yourself. You've paid your dues. We see it. And you just become undeniable. So I think that's the big thing too, is you just put your head down and you work hard to become to the point where people just cannot deny you.
Like, and if you love what you do, because obviously she does, she has a passion for it. no one's going to stop you.
Yeah.
Except for yourself, really.
Yeah. Yeah.
So anyways, do you want to just wrap up? Say like a little bit like kind of where she is right now.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was going to do. Yeah. So she just a couple things. So she does get burnt out of doing this behavioral stuff because it's a lot, right?
I can imagine that stuff. Not only are you behaving, but you're constantly, your world is revolved in violence. I can imagine
100%.
that being so just
so
so draining and tiring.
So she eventually becomes the director of the intelligence bureau for the OPP. And so she was the first woman director, which is huge. And then she gets the job as the chief superintendent in charge of investigation. So again, it's like all of these firsts, right, that she's achieving.
I don't know. They sound fancy, but I don't know what they are in relation to the hierarchy.
I don't know. But
so it's pretty high up. This is pretty high up. This is still at the top of the OPP, so the provincial.
Provincial. Yeah.
So what's the person who runs the whole OPP?
I don't know, actually. I don't know. But the first woman,
the director,
I don't know. I'm not really sure. So, and then a couple other notable cases that she was involved in was the Tori Stafford case in Woodstock. I don't know if you remember that one. That happened when we lived in Waterloo.
Not by name.
It was a little girl that was taken and killed. She was only 8 years old. It's horrific. So she was part of that. And then also another one that I didn't know about actually until not too long ago, but there was this guy, his name is Russell Williams. He was arrested in 2010 and he was the base commander of CFB Trenton. He ended up being charged on 88 counts. This guy was like a serial burglar. He did like serial assaults on women. And then he actually ended up killing 2 women. And he was like the base commander.
Like the army
in the army.
Whatever.
Yeah. So she was a part of Trenton. Yeah.
That's, where is that?
I think, is it near Ottawa?
Is Trenton? I'm thinking Borden. Borden was the one we did research on. But Trenton, I don't know if that's the one that we passed by on the way to Ottawa. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm not sure. But anyways,
he was he was the commander of the whole base.
Yeah. And charged with this. Like, it was a huge deal, but I didn't even know it at the time. So anyways, so those were just a couple more notable ones I just wanted to hit there. But anyways, so she ended up retiring. She was just over 50 years old and had 30 years of service. So she ended up retiring. Right. She achieved...
There's someone that deserves full pension if I've ever
heard of it. So she achieved so many Canadian firsts, like setting up the VI-class system.
Yep.
There's a bunch of other ones. There's so much I won't even get into, but she set up a lot of these first things. So she tries to retire. She goes down to Florida for like 6 months.
Right.
And then she's like, I'm bored.
Well, yeah, I would imagine so.
So she opens her own consulting business, and she studies to get like her private investigator's license, because you have to have that if you want to actually investigate things outside of being a cop. So she does that. And
so what does a private investigator do? It's like somebody hires them to investigate because the cops won't or whatever, and then you just gather up evidence so that you can bring it to the cops or do whatever it is you want.
Yep. Or if you're not happy with how the cops have investigated something, you hire somebody outside of the police department. Yeah.
Crazy. I wonder how much they charge. Probably a shit ton of money.
Yep. So she does like private corporate and government consulting, I guess, because she's a profiler and has all this stuff. She also does speaking engagements, training, and she does like a lot of victim and survivor justice initiatives as well. But what's really cool about this is like, and this is kind of my philosophy on things as well, is even though she has all this experience and she has all this training, she still recognizes that you can always learn more. Yep. And so as part of having her own consulting business, there was an opportunity for her to go back to the Quantico at FBI and take another training course, which I thought was...
Like they invited her to take this course?
She just was able to go and take it. So,
well, I'm just got enough status and connections. I'm sure she
can
call someone else.
Exactly.
Like, I want to take
exactly.
This course.
So, but I loved that even though she's, was so high up and did all these awesome things, she still recognizes that the learning never stops.
Oh, she would know because she knows what the learning has done for her career, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's the thing, especially I think with like police officers or whatever, like, I think you have opportunities to go on all these different trainings and whatever.
Yes.
And if your commander or sergeant or whatever kind of sees that you're getting all this extra training, that's how you can move up with the ranks. Yeah. As opposed to if like, you just go and do your job and don't really, so it's again, like your success in life really depends on how well you apply yourself and how willing you are to actually learn and to continually better your craft. Because the learning never stops. You'll never be like,
Done.
you know what? I am literally know everything and I'm the best at everything.
Yeah.
It's never ending.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's really cool.
So that's basically her story. And like I said, I just think, being, she had the balls, number one, you have to have the balls to just jump and take these opportunities as they come. And I thought that was really cool because she, going away for 10 months to this FBI training, like that was a big sacrifice. She was in a really serious relationship and she, you're away for 10 months. Like that's really rough.
Did it last?
They ended up getting married, but then they got divorced after a while. So yeah.
Yeah, maybe you couldn't handle getting profiled all the time. I don't know. The person who's leaving the toilet seat up is 5'9".
This guy. So I just thought, taking risks, being open to these new opportunities, and just really, not playing a victim and just really doing your work.
So what risk do you want to take? What risk are you willing to take?
I don't know.
Is that a takeaway for you? Is that you would be more willing to take on various risks in terms of where we go in our life?
Absolutely. Yeah. Like absolutely. I think you have to take calculated risks in order for growth to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's tough. I mean, you can never do this. You can't grow backwards, but it's like, imagine you could take what you know now and put that back into your, your 15-year-old self or whatever it is and be like, oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Because when you're young, you literally, the world is your potential, right? You can, there's so many different, you can go any which direction you want. But when you're older and have kids and, you got the mortgage and you got the car payments and you got this and that, it's a lot harder to just be like, oh, well, screw it. I'm just going to go to the FBI new profile. It's a lot, there's a lot more involved into just being able to do that. So, but that being said, just like it's never too late to stop learning and you're always learning, it's never too late to be able to take your life and literally put it 180 degrees and do something else. It might take a little bit more work and more time, and more thinking about it as opposed to like 18 years old. It's just like, fuck it, just get a backpack and go travel wherever. Right. So, so it's good to know that, you're more open and willing to take risks because the benefits, right, are huge.
And I think like with age comes like, especially with us, it's just like, oh, what's the worst thing that can happen? Like we've already taken so many risks. And so it's just like, well, this one actually seems pretty tame compared to other shit that we've done. Yeah. So I think it's.
Nothing now can phase you like, oh, you're going to lose your job. It's like, well, I'll get another one.
Been there before.
Yeah. So your car's going to break down. You don't have a house, so you don't have a place to live. Whatever, we'll deal with that one. Whatever, don't care. We got a tent. It's fine.
It's fine. Everything's fine.
Yeah, no, because that's exactly right. I mean, what's the worst can happen? And for us too. I mean, through all the things that we've experienced over the past even 10 years, I guess we can say is that we've gone through all these different things, experiences, and one thing that we know is that we need to make sure that we can weather any kind of storms that do happen. And that's one thing about that is really trying to make sure that we take care of finances. Because at the end of the day, finances is the biggest enabler of being able to have freedom to be able to handle
unfortunately,
that happen, right? That's kind of how, it's kind of the reality of the situation, right? Yeah. When you have little mouths to feed or what have you, it's not like the Nature Channel where the mom has like 5 cubs
and for yourself.
You're just like, oh, things are going bad. It's like, no, it just leaves like, well, later. It's you can't quite do that. Yeah. But anyways, so what else? Any other takeaways?
I think that was about it. I think we hit kind of everything I wanted to talk about her, but definitely read the book, get the book, because it's so good.
On a just a book scale, 1 to 10.
10 out of 10.
Oh, you can't just give every book we have 10s because then it becomes meaningless. It's 10.
I know, but it was 10s. So good.
Like 10's got to be reserved for like the best ever.
Okay, this is so good. I've read it 3 times.
Okay, so you gave Rich Roll's book a 10.
Well, because that was really good.
Well, I know, but I'm just saying, if everything's a 10, then nothing is a 10.
I understand. I've read this book 3 times. Some of the stories, like we didn't even get into half of
Yeah,
what she
well, no,
wrote.
we're not,
Like it's so good, especially if you like true crime. And what's really cool is that it's Canadian, which is awesome.
Yeah.
And it's just like, how did I not know about her? That's what it's like.
Yeah.
How did I not know about her?
Yeah,
So
she's like somebody that we need to get on the podcast because that'd be really cool.
yeah,
Really cool to talk
it'd
to
be
her.
so cool to talk to her.
And then on a scale of being inspirational to people to like, hey, read this book because maybe it'll inspire you to kind of get off your ass and do stuff. What would you give that on a 1 to 10?
Like I'd definitely like a 10.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Look at you. That's like especially for women, I guess.
Especially
too,
for
right?
women, like this is like I wrote this note and I said like her story is what real feminism is to me, is because she was the first or one of the first women in the OPP to do a lot of these things. And if she can do it back then, back in the 70s, like, come on, then we can do anything. Like us women can do anything. Like these are the true trailblazers here.
Yeah.
So,
well, except compete against men when it comes to swimming.
I'm not touching that one.
No, I'm not going there.
Not going there.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, nothing, again, like if you want to do something, you can do something. And this whole thing between men and women, as if like women could do everything that men could do, or men could do everything that women could do. I mean, there's biological differences in the genders, and some genders just do other things better than others. But it's not to say that you can't just do something.
So
you know
this
what I
is
mean?
the cool thing about her story is like, you know, that first instance when she's asked to interview the women in Windsor, like they know being a female, they're going to open up more to you. The other thing,
you're not going to hear men be like, "Oh, this is discriminatory because you're letting women do this." Like, no, there's just some things that it's better to have a man do versus some things are better to have a woman do.
And even like having a female perspective, she gives this really funny story where she's at the FBI doing her training, and they have one case that they're looking at. And the victim's female victim, her underwear are inside out. And they're like, oh, that must have been like sexual assault because the underwear is on inside out. Someone must have put it on. And she's like, actually, you know what? Sometimes as a female, like I just put my underwear on inside out. Just like it happens. Sometimes I don't wear the same color socks. Yeah. So it's like giving that perspective, like sometimes
by accident,
shit just happens. Like, yeah. So it's, yeah. No,
for sure. Exactly. And it's just recognizing the differences. But yeah, obviously if you get to a place where it's like, no women allowed or no men allowed, then like, oh, it's obvious. Okay, what reason? Oh, because I don't like women. So then, that's the thing, right?
Well, of course.
But if it's just like, you know, everyone's like, you know, for example, like a firefighter, you know, if you're strong enough and you could lift the weights and you could pass all the physical requirements, then you're become a firefighter. That's you know, good on you, right? Same thing for men, you know, if you like caring for people or doing those types of things like that require more compassion, empathy, you know, then become a nurse, whatever, right? Like, everyone can do whatever, you know, like everyone can just you do you and let me be me, and everyone, and that's it, right? Let everyone do whatever they want as long as they can actually get the job done.
So anyways, totally recommend this book on many levels. It's very, very good. Very inspirational. So if you like true crime, get it for sure.
Or if you just like cool Canadian people and hearing about their stories, that's also really cool. Where does she live now?
I don't know actually. I don't know.
Just think somewhere in Ontario. What's her shop?
Oh, I think so. Yeah.
What's her shop called?
I don't know actually. She doesn't name it.
I'm sure if you type in her
Google
name,
it, I'm sure it'll come up.
What it is.
Yeah, but I know she does a lot of talks and stuff like that. Like she does a lot of speaking engagements. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I would imagine.
Yeah,
absolutely.
It's pretty cool. Yeah.
Cool. Well, so that's cool. No, I really like that. You know, don't let anyone stop you to pursue whatever it is you want to pursue. No matter who you are or whatever, if you want it, you can go ahead and get it. And make sure to look at things from the lens that, you know, there's always stuff to learn.
Absolutely.
There's always things you can do better, and take a multidisciplinary whatever approach because there's always all kinds of different factors. It's not just always one thing.
Absolutely.
So that's good. I like it.
Awesome.
Sounds good. I don't know if I'll ever read it if I don't get around to it, but it sounds it's fantastic. Great story. Great story. All right. I think I don't know. I think that's it, unless you want to hear me ramble on for longer.
Please stop.
You're the one talking most during this one. And if you like our stuff, as always, if you can head over to iTunes or Spotify or whatever, give us a review or a like or whatever it is. That would be really cool. Again, check us out on odumandandrea.com. If you'd like to support our show, we'd really appreciate that. And as always, thanks for watching.
Thanks for watching.
Thanks for listening.
Chris, high five.
High five. And we'll see you next week.
Bye.